Thank you. We're following this breaking news out of the Newhall area right now. CHP involved in a pursuit. The driver apparently wanted in connection with a deadly shooting in Pomona.
News Chopper 4 over the scene. Eliana Moreno, we see a few of those units behind that car there. What else do we know? Eliana, can you hear us? All right. We don't have Eliana there, but we are monitoring this pursuit. Again, you see those units behind there. The want, as of right now that we know of, is wanted in connection to a deadly shooting in Pomona.
I think we've just re-established contact with Eliana. Eliana, give us an idea of where you are.
We're traveling southbound on the 5 coming up to Templin Highway, and this is the CHP that is now in pursuit of this black Kia. This is the CHP that is now in pursuit of this black Kia. This vehicle is a car that they've been looking for the last several hours. We actually made our way out to Pomona, where we went to a large modern apartment complex, and it is there that Pomona Police, along with the California Highway Patrol, found some shooting victims, and tragically, some of them are dead. At this point, we're still trying to confirm how many, but we heard a number as high as possibly 5 people. We're still working to confirm that, but anywhere between 3 and 5 people. So this is a person that really has nothing to lose at this point, that has been trying to evade the CHP since they started chasing him roughly just on the north end of the San Fernando Valley. They lit him up near the 5 freeway and the 14, and he stuck to that northbound 5 freeway, took it all the way up to the 138 where he got off the freeway, turned around, and is now headed back south. Now, where the vehicle is registered to, that is unknown at this point. It's not even clear if the vehicle is stolen. If it's stolen, that's going to make it a lot more difficult to figure out where this person may potentially be heading. But for now, continuing here southbound 5 freeway near Templin Highway.
You know, the traffic, Eliana, seems pretty light in the area. Are they blocking any of the entrance ramps ahead?
At this point, they're not, Colleen, but I can tell you that they're talking about spike strips. So I heard them say that they were setting up some spike strips in the area to try to perhaps have those spike strips be what brings things to an end. But at this point, they haven't set those up. I did hear them at least starting the conversation in that sense of setting it up so that hopefully this driver would drive over the spike strips, and that is what would bring things to an end. But for now, continuing at full freeway speeds, if not faster. We've heard that he's gone as high as 120 miles an hour, but currently traveling at about 80 miles an hour or so. And again, I'll have to correct myself on the shooting numbers. We do know it is a fatal shooting investigation, but again, at this point, the number of individuals that may be deceased is still under wraps here by the Pomona Police Department. We're waiting to get a little more information.
You know, so this is a pursuit that started in Pomona. So CHP behind this vehicle here, there's no way they're going to let this person go, right? As we're talking about a game plan here.
Absolutely not, Annabelle. And sometimes they do let them go, especially if it's just a property crime where, like, let's say the car was just stolen. Let's say that's the only reason they were following him. In that case, they would have probably let this guy go already because it's safer for them to just let the vehicle go and they could get him at some other point in time. In this case, they know that this person is some way, somehow tied to a fatal shooting investigation out of Pomona. So this is somebody who literally has nothing to lose at this point. They do believe he is still armed, and I'm saying he, but at this point, unconfirmed if the suspect is a man or a woman. But again, at this point, this person believed to be armed and willing to use that weapon clearly, and continuing to evade police here southbound on the 5.
Eliana, any idea if there's anyone else in the car at this point?
At this point, it's unclear, Colleen. Never heard how many suspects Pomona Police and the California Highway Patrol were looking for in connection with that initial shooting. So difficult to know how many suspects are involved and if they're all in the vehicle at this point or if it's just the driver. The vehicle's windows are darkly tinted. I'll zoom in here. and I really can't see anyone in there. So unless he were to lower his window so I can take a peek inside, or we get an opportunity to look through the front windshield, it's at this point unknown how many people may be inside this Kia vehicle. And again, if this guy hasn't fueled up since leaving Pomona, he's made his way all the way from Pomona near the near the 10 and the 71 freeways, which is where that shooting took place, all the way up to the 5 and the 138, and is now turning around and heading back southbound here on the 5 freeway.
Whereabouts is this at, Ileana? If you can just give us a little better idea as to where this driver is currently at.
Yeah, we're actually coming over Castaic Lake right now. So physically with the helicopter, we're right over the lake. The pursuit continuing here, though, southbound on the 5. This is coming up to where the freeway splits. So if you're familiar with this area, it actually kind of it moves the southbound side of the freeway to the opposite side here. So that's exactly where we're at, where we have that big split here on the 5 freeway. And so he's right next to the lake currently. And the speeds are about freeway speeds or so, 70 miles an hour or so, but we've seen him go a whole lot faster than this. We heard that he went as high as 180 at one point. As slow as 55 is the slowest that I've heard him clocked at here by the CHP overhead. And they actually don't have a helicopter overhead. It's actually a plane, a CHP plane that first located the vehicle, and they're the ones that have been tracking the pursuit ever since.
Once again, just to set the scene here, the CHP is following this black Kia. They're going south on the 5 freeway, and the driver is wanted for questioning in some sort of fatal shooting investigation in the Pomona area today. We're trying to get more information on that, and we, of course, will bring it to you as soon as we get it. In the meantime, he seems to be doing freeway speeds at this point. Ileana?
Yeah, freeway speed. So I'm wondering, Colleen, is he starting to take his fuel situation into consideration at this point? I don't believe the vehicle is disabled in any way. He hasn't ran over any of those spike strips, but about 65, 70 miles an hour or so now, continuing to trek here southbound on the 5, again, right next to Castaic Lake. If he continues in this general direction, he'll come up to the Newhall Pass where the 5 and the 14 come together. That'll give him some options if he wants to take the 14, or of course he can continue southbound on the 5. That'll take him into the San Fernando Valley. It's an area that he's traversed before because, again, this came out of Pomona, and the first time we heard that they had possibly spotted the vehicle was northbound on the 5 in Burbank. But what freeways he took to get to the northbound 5 in Burbank are unknown at this point, but he continued northbound on the 5 through the Newhall Pass, through Santa Clarita, and made his way all the way to the 138 before turning around, and currently right by Lake Hughes Road.
So, Ileana, something that caught my attention here is that you said that there's a CHP plane that's following this car as opposed to a helicopter?
We lost IFB.
All right. So we're going to try to reconnect with Ileana there. But again, this is a dark Kia that CHP is in pursuit of on the 5 freeway near Castaic Lake. So,
as you can see, the speed right now, he's doing freeway speeds. I think we've reestablished with Ileana. Do you hear us? Is he pulling over or slowing?
Looks like he's about to exit.
He's getting off. Ileana, are you with us?
All right. Yeah, in and out is, and in that area we know is, it's very difficult to get a solid connection out there, but we see those units behind.
Yeah, now you see the CHP units starting to move in. They had talked about spike strips earlier. In that he is wanted for questioning in a shooting in Pomona. We're trying to get more information on that. They look like they're pulling up or getting very close to maybe do a pit maneuver here. You'll see them, if that's what they're thinking about, they'll come right up on the bumper. But the only issue with that, Annabelle, and again, we're trying to reestablish connection with Ileana here. The only problem with that is they don't know if this driver is armed, and they have to assume that perhaps he is at this point because he is wanted for questioning in a shooting in Pomona earlier today. Once again, they can't see because the windows are tinted very darkly here, but you see that that cruiser gets right up on the bumper and then moves back. Hard to tell because they don't know as well if there are any other suspects in the car.
Right. And that's the thing, right, is that because this is a fatal shooting suspect, they are not going to let this person go. Eliana was talking about if it was something else, maybe a stolen vehicle, whatnot, then they would be, especially if they were driving recklessly, then they would let this person go. But because we're talking about a fatal shooting suspect, they are going to stay behind this car, this driver. Again, we don't know if this is a woman or a man behind the wheel, and we don't know if any passengers are in there as well.
All right, let's go back to Ileana in News Chopper 4. Ileana Marino.
And he just made his way off the freeway. And sorry, guys, I can't hear any questions you may have for me. But I'll just talk you for a little bit and tell you what he did. He got off the 5 freeway there at Lake Hughes Road. He's right at Ridge Route Road. So making his way to Castaic Lake. As I widen out the shot, you'll see the lake here off to the left. And the road that he's on is pretty desolate. Unless you know where you're going, you'd easily get lost. So making his way here, Lake Hughes Road, CHP right on his tail. For a second, it looked like they might attempt a pit maneuver when he first got off the freeway. But again, this person is potentially armed. So whenever a suspect is armed, officers are very mindful about performing pit maneuvers because they don't want to be nose to nose with an individual that is potentially armed. And this person clearly will use that weapon. We did make the connection that he is somehow connected to the fatal shooting that took place in Pomona. Now, we did talk to the CHP airplane overhead. We asked him how many victims there were. He did give us a number, but I'm not going to say it yet officially until we can get the official confirmation with the CHP units on the ground. But this person may be connected to a situation where more than one person may have died in a fatal shooting at an apartment complex in Pomona.
Ileana, while we continue to look at the picture here, I'm going to tell you everything we know about this fatal shooting earlier this morning. This is per LA County Fire Department. Apparently, there was a medical call on East Monterey Avenue sometime this morning. They dispatched a rescue ambulance out there. It came in as a gunshot wound, a possible gunshot wound. They will say no parties were transported. I don't want to read into that, but we are hearing that this was a fatal shooting out there. And according to the CHP, they got a call at about 3:30 this afternoon to help Pomona PD with a call. They're not saying anything else about this. We understand from our people working the phones here on the assignment desk, they're being very tight-lipped. So if you can figure it out from there, what we've got is Pomona PD was on this. The CHP has taken over. They were going south. This driver was headed south on the 5, has gotten off, I believe, on Lake Hughes Road. We're expecting them there. You see they're popping out on the other side of the hill there. Yeah,
this is a very desolate road. Eliana, do we have you?
Yeah, back with you guys here. It'll be in and out, but I can hear you for now. Lake Hughes Road, right next to Castaic Lake. And just to reference that scene out in Pomona that Colleen was just talking about, it was a very large response from Pomona Police that had this very large apartment complex completely surrounded. And I can tell you that when we were overhead, there was a police helicopter overhead with us, and they were looking for this black Kia. So they were searching the 10 freeway, which was the nearest freeway nearby. They were searching streets in the area looking for this individual. And again, it seems like that airship didn't give up, and eventually that CHP plane found the car northbound 5 in Burbank, eventually made its way all the way north to the 138, where he turned around and started heading back southbound on the 5 freeway before he exited at Lake Hughes Road, where we find ourselves now. So he's making his way now through the Angeles National Forest. Does this mean that he is more familiar perhaps with the Palmdale Lancaster area, and this is why we're going this way? Or did he simply just make the wrong choice there off the 5 freeway and he's going to end up lost or at a dead end or something of that nature? For now, your guess is as good as mine, but he's continuing here Lake Hughes Road with, let's count him, I see at least 3 units of the CHP still on his tail. There's also a K9 unit from what I understand, and there was a motor unit behind him as well. He was kind of at the rear of the pack. Oh, actually, it looks like it's 4 units now, and no more motor unit behind the suspect.
Eliana, as far as options for these drivers, I mean, what's ahead?
There's really not too much, Annabelle, other than just the forest. We're looking at this basically 1 lane in each direction, desolate road with no homes nearby. If there are homes, it's going to be a very remote area. Usually we talk about how suspects will return to an area that is familiar to them. They can drive into an apartment complex. They can ditch the car, run into their friend's home. At this point, we can throw all of that out the window. That's not this guy's plan because there is nothing here in the way of any sort of structure. We're out literally in the middle of the Angeles National Forest. Now, hopefully CHP is able to go ahead and stop traffic in the other direction. I would hate for this to be a situation where this suspect tries to crash into any other vehicle that may be coming in the other direction. But for now, CHP staying right on his tail. Again, I don't believe they're going to try a pit because of the possibility, very accurate possibility that he is still potentially armed. But they did talk about spike strips. I don't think that that's going to be possible at this point because there's not going to be any officers up ahead to be able to deploy that spike strips. Any officer behind or any officer here is behind him at this point.
Eliana, he's going deeper into the Angeles National Forest. There's no way, short of him making a U-turn and going back, that he could access a freeway from here, correct?
Yeah, there is no freeway anywhere nearby. He's basically just going to have to stay on Lake Hughes Road if he intends on making his way here through the forest. Eventually, if he just continues, it'll wind around, and I do see that it's starting to do that now. So it'll kind of just wind around up on this hill. But as I look out into the mountains here, there's nothing. It's just mountain areas on either side of the road. Again, nothing in the way of structures. Really confusing to know what the game plan was in this one, if there was a game plan at all, or if he was simply just hoping to lose the officers when he got off the freeway. But right now, it's basically just a road, empty road up ahead, no freeways anywhere nearby, not even any cross streets anywhere nearby where he could make a turn either left or right. He's pretty much committed here to Lake Hughes Road.
You know, what's very concerning to me as I'm watching this driver just go through this, go deep into the Angeles National Forest there, that it's 1 lane on each direction. And I'm concerned about all of the other cars that might be coming in the opposite direction, not knowing what's going on.
Absolutely. That's my concern, too, because if you're coming southbound here on Lake Hughes Road, you don't know if this guy could potentially just crash into you or something of that nature, or what his intent is. Again, he's wanted for a shooting that took place in Pomona. How many victims that we're still trying to get that officially confirmed. But it was a very large scene over there. I would say there were at least 20 units from the Pomona Police Department, which isn't a very big police department, but it was Pomona and CHP, and Pomona actually had to request the assistance of the CHP because of the magnitude of that case. That happened at a large apartment complex near the train tracks right there off of the 10 freeway and the 71. We were overhead for that roughly at about 4 o'clock or so, and it's unclear exactly when the shooting took place, but by the time we got there, it was surrounded by officers, and there was an airship overhead looking for this very vehicle that they did in fact find in Burbank.
Ileana, I'm trying to figure out what the CHP officers, those units behind, might be doing. Every once in a while, you see the lead unit get very close to that black Kia. He pulls over to the shoulder of the road, almost like he's looking at something, almost like he's anticipating perhaps a pit maneuver. But we know full well, if there's any chance at all that this guy is armed, they're not going to do that, correct?
Absolutely, Colleen. I'm wondering the same thing because it almost looks like that officer wants to pit him. But normally, we would be talking about things like other vehicles on the road that they have to be mindful of. In this case, we know there's nobody else around, so they have free reign in that sense. In terms of speed, you kind of see the speed jumping up and down, but it's definitely more than 35 miles an hour, which is ideal. The size of the car is perfect for a pit, but again, we know that this guy is potentially armed, and for that reason, under most circumstances, officers wouldn't attempt a pit because they wouldn't want the suspect to end up hood to hood, nose to nose with one of these officers and potentially try to harm that officer in any way. So at this point, it does not seem that a pit maneuver is a possibility, but we'll see if perhaps there is a chance to set up a spike strip up ahead. I highly doubt it. It would have to be a CHP unit coming from the opposite direction, and it is a very long drive on Lake Hughes Road as you come out from the Antelope Valley to make your way to this destination. But continuing here on Lake Hughes Road, I'll try to get you across when I can, but
Plus you have
just continuing to make his way here through the mountains.
You have those deep drop-offs, which could be very dangerous to the CHP units as well.
Yeah. Eliana, did we lose you here?
Just got you guys back, but I did hear Colleen reference the drop-offs. That's also concerning because you don't know what this person's state of mind is, if he's going to potentially try to do something with that vehicle to potentially harm himself. So that is, of course, that's a concern of the officers. If this person is, of course, responsible for that shooting that took place, they want to see justice, but then they also want to help this person and avoid any type of traffic collision situation. But for now, he continues here on Lake Hughes Road, which is one lane in each direction. He's making his way here through the mountains. We'll be overhead here in a sec as it continues to wind down, and I'll be able to zoom in here. But I also want to add, we do have a sheriffship from LA County that is starting to make his way in this direction. So I did say that there was a plane overhead, but now they will be joined by a sheriff's helicopter in just a matter of minutes.
You know, how unique is that, Eliana, to have a plane as opposed to a helicopter?
Annabelle, I just caught part of your question. It's usually rare to just have a plane on a pursuit. Normally it is a police helicopter, but sometimes they will be assisted by a plane. That's pretty rare, though. I have seen multiple police helicopters on one pursuit, but the fact that it's been a plane this entire time and nothing else, that is pretty rare.
Once again, time is on the side of these CHP officers. If this car has been on the road since the possible shooting or the shooting in Pomona earlier today, there's a pretty good likelihood he is low on fuel.
Yeah, he came all the way from Pomona to the San Fernando Valley, made his way up to the 138 before turning around here on the southbound 5 and exiting Lake Hughes Road. We're near Ruby Clearwater Fire Road. That'll be our nearest cross. If this guy runs out of fuel, that's going to be it for him. There's no gas stations nearby where he could try to sneak in the way we sometimes see pursuit suspects do, nor would these officers behind him give him any room to be able to do that. But for now, continuing to make his way northbound Lake Hughes Road, eventually this would get him up in
All right, we're going to continue to follow this on the NBC Los Angeles News Channel, wherever you stream.